Okay, we are live, and I kind of have to wait for the YouTube video to kick off because then it'll be me coming over the top. Caught ya! Haha. So we didn't get like a playback thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me live this fine, frosty, dark evening here in Buckinghamshire. You are with me in Buckinghamshire in spirit, psychically. It's 5:30. It's pitch flipping black and has been since about 4:30. Wonderful, wonderful. If you're watching this on playback, thank you for watching, and I hope I will be able to say something useful. The subject of getting grounded and moving forward was inspired by this video that I did 2 days ago when I drove back from Prague to the UK, and I said that I didn't think it was useful to consider reality as an illusion, and I got not much pushback on that, but some pushback, and it was quite strong. And I thought that's really interesting. Why would people be committed to the idea that reality is an illusion? Why would they be committed to other people thinking that reality is an illusion? And why would they want to believe that reality is an illusion? And this tied in with one of my thoughts or insights when I went to do the ayahuasca ceremony about highfalutin philosophy, because ayahuasca, as people know, is a fairly grounded, practical. It's not like acid where you sit there going, "Oh, what is the meaning of consciousness? And what is language? And is it a virus? And is my DNA alien?" It's very much more like practical, just get on with your life kind of thing. And the pushback was interesting from people because they're going, "Oh, no, reality is an illusion and you're wrong." And I'm like, well, if you really believe that, why are you bothering to comment on my YouTube video? Because my YouTube video is an illusion. I'm an illusion, and so is YouTube. So, so I don't really believe you. I don't really believe that you believe that. I think you're posturing. I think that you're pretending. But the question is why? My experience made me more wary of very cerebral, very very not philosophical, but very intellectual answers to questions. Another element of the experience doing the ayahuasca thing was when I was saying, "I've come." They were like, "The entities that you speak to, why are you here?" I said, "Well, I'd like to help my clients." And they went, "What's a client?" So I went through it in my mind, explaining what a client was, and they're like, "Oh, so it's not for you?" Well, it's a little bit for me. Are you okay? I said, yeah. Is your life doing okay? Yeah. And they were like, well, why are you bothered about what you trying to do? There was this real confusion and sort of eye rolling about like clients. What is a client? But one of the things when we'd gotten into the flow of it that came up was it's not good to take people too much into the brain, into the cerebellum, to bring all that energy up into your head and to hold it there and to go, okay, we're now going to think about this. It's a complicated subject. I am in my trauma response, in the particular peculiar way in which my life has twisted me, has made me a fixer, a code breaker. And so one of the first major heroes I had in books was Sherlock Holmes. He's a detective, a Sherlock Holmes story without a puzzle to be solved, and I think there was one, maybe two. It's fairly boring and depressing because what are we watching? What are we watching him do? The subject of trauma, narcissistic abuse, and all the rest of it, it is complicated. It is complicated, and it does require some academic understanding. But does it really help you on a day-to-day basis to put your socks on and do whatever it is you need to do in your life if you're going deeper and deeper into an academic understanding? And I think myself, not just as a producer of content and material and coaching on the subject, but as a consumer of it, because I've been in emotionally abusive relationships, I do think there is a little bit of a fault in the mind where we can start thinking, okay, that's the way out. There's the solution. If I know more and I understand more, that'll be the solution. Yes, Pete Walker says this. He calls it good. I can't remember what he calls it. Something like psychological education. I think he calls it psychoeducation, actually, is necessary in your trauma recovery. But you know what else is necessary? Dancing. Dancing. Dancing's necessary. Being with your mates and having a laugh. Going outside, walking the dog if you like dogs, being in nature if you like nature. If your name is Pierre and you live in Prague, then you get out on your wheel and you wheel around the place and leave a trail of vape smoke behind you. If you're manifesting as me, then you might go to a bachata class or something, or you go to a martial arts class. That's important, really important, because for all the talking that I can do, for all the talking anybody who's a coach, counselor, psychotherapist, or psychiatrist can do, and all the reading that we can do, the problem, a big part of the problem is right here. It's right here. It's in the body. It's your physical body. So you are going to have to deal with your physical body. You're going to have to start there. The food, the sleep, the caffeine, the over-the-counter drugs. Some of them are so powerful now that you can get. I have 80% of people, I just checked on my YouTube analytics, are of people listening to me are in America. And the stuff that you can get. We can get powerful stuff here, but it's not like America. It's really strange. America and the UK is really strange. There's two fields that I've learned about in the last 18 months. One is cars, because I was never interested in cars. Then I got into them in the last 18 months. And the other was over-the-counter medications for psychopharmaceuticals. Our laws on cars in the UK and in Europe generally are wild compared to America. We can have a lot more power in the engine than America can, which is counterintuitive. You'd think it was the other way around. But the drugs that you can have there are extremely powerful. So we've got to, I'm not going to preach to you about whatever you do is what you do, man, because life is hard. Life's hard. It hurts. It's difficult. And you are going to hit disappointment. You are going to hit pain. You are going to have your heart broken over a long enough time. It's inevitable. So I'm not going to preach to you about what you do or don't do. But just be aware that you're not a mind and a body. It's one of these boring revelations that everybody has after a psychedelic experience, if we're calling that the experience that I had psychedelic, which maybe I wouldn't, is I came away from it going, wow, there's no mind, man. And there's no body, man. That's all nonsense. There's just one thing. It's nonsense. There's a mind, there's a body, there's a left, there's a right. There isn't. There isn't. There's just what there is. And the split helps. The split is good because of the way we do things in the West, mechanistic, systemic, deconstructive. You pull it down to its component parts and understand it and change things and then put it back together. Okay, true. But there's a whole way of doing it, a holistic way of doing it. And there's no way that you're going to be in the peaks of mental and emotional bliss if your body is really, really suffering, or at least it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be very hard for your body to be in a good state if you're mentally in anguish, depressed, terrified, or whatever else. They say, where the body goes, the mind will follow. Where the mind goes, the body will follow. Yeah, dummy, because they're one thing. It's just one. So grounded then is come out of highfalutin philosophy. I have people saying to me, you don't understand. Reality actually is illusion. Nothing you see is what it really. I'm like, for fuck's sake. Okay, so you're posturing on YouTube. If I come round to your house, is everything in order? You got clean socks on? Your relationship's good? I know that they're not. Because people who've got their lives in order aren't arguing in Facebook comments or YouTube comments or social media comments about shit like this. You're trying to convince other people through an electronic cyber avatar of you that you're further along than you are, to try and make yourself feel better. And I can see through you. But I'm rude enough to actually say, I think you're full of shit. Other people can see through you as well. Though most of the people who follow me, they can only tolerate me because they've got a fairly decent level IQ, and they can tolerate the verbiage. They know that you're full of shit as well. You're not fooling anyone. You're literally not. There's nobody in the system that's going, I believe this person's the flipping reincarnation of the Buddha. But excuse me, sir, excuse me, madam, can I have your email address so I can begin a correspondence and be your student and kneel at your feet? Never going to happen. Never going to happen, because everybody can see through it. So why do it? Because not only have people gone too far up into the mind, but they're too far out into ego representations and too invested in the avatar. If your online avatar is not a congruent reflection of your real life, you're a phony online. You're not a fake person. You're a real person. You are real. But don't ego invest in a fake online avatar, and don't try and shoot out of your emotions and your physical body into the intellectual ivory tower of academic foldy roll, where you're like, I want another education, I want another degree, I'll just read one more book and the solution will be there. It won't be. It won't be. It can't be. There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. It's just this. It's this. And you can get in contact with this really, really quickly, and you can feel good. That's what I mean when I talk about being grounded, is not to try and escape that which is through online posturing, through over intellectualizing, through books, through. I mean, imagine if you have got everything sorted, you're reading all the latest research on CPTSD, and there are people out there, PTSD, CPTSD, trauma recovery, every single meta-analysis that's comparative of different modalities, and you're doing that. Is your life going to be in order? Or are you going to start veering in towards somebody who's a bit of a nerd, knows a lot, physically isn't robust and healthy, doesn't feel good inside their own body? They're not like, if you did like a little. I'm always interested, if somebody doesn't think anybody's looking at them, you just have a little fly on the wall. Nobody's happy all the time. It doesn't exist. But if you've got a little fly on the wall and you see that person a few times a day, they look pretty happy, singing away to themselves, having a little bit of a dance, something happens and they laugh. Or are they swearing all the time, kicking things all the time, growling all the time, cranky, abusive to the people around them, frustrated that they're not being given the validation they think that they should? I should be out. Everybody should listen to me. Chill, man. Get grounded. Deal with what is. It's not perfect. It's a fucking mess. It's all a mess. It's all a mess. Okay. But that's what it is, right? That's what it is. If we try to chant our way out, meditate our way out, yoga our way out, or fake our way out, what do we get? You will get some relief. And that's why people do it. That's why people do drugs. That's why people do what they do, because they do get some relief from it. Hey, somebody's done a super chat. If you do a super chat, please be patient with me, because I've never done it before and I don't know what it means. All right, here we go. Eyes that watch 69. How can I make that come on the screen for you? How can I make that come on the screen for you? That's dirty. That's not funny. That's silly. You're just being silly now. Does drinking stop you being grounded? I've been working through loads whilst being sober for 3 months. Any advice on bringing it back in? Does drinking stop you from being grounded? All drugs will stop you from being here, present in this body. So as you're sat there and you're looking at me now with your squid tentacles flopping around, You breathe in and you straighten your back and you blink a few times and you just go, oh, wowee, I'm here. I'm here. And you're not escaping this. This is not death. When you eventually leave the river, when you put your boat to the side and you go, listen, folks, that was all right. That I'm going now. They'll be like, oh, okay, but that's it. This is it. So any drug is going to stop you from being present in here and now in your body. And alcohol is legal, but it's not good. It's really, really not good. So I was going to posit, I believe it is true. Well, thank you for that question. I believe it to be the case that, oh, there we go. That's how you do it. I can find you like this. Great. Thank you, eyes that watch. That in order to move forward, that you can only move forward from being grounded. So what's groundedness? Be practical, pay your bills, do a little, this is a life coaching channel. I've never spoken to you about money. But I have to at some point. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just going woo, 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 round and round the garden, talking to a bunch of people about their emotional regulation and everything else. But actually, they're depressed or they're anxious, or somebody just mentioned before they're moving house. You got to sort your money out. I've got a lot of entrepreneurs here. If you increase your sales, which I can totally help you to do, you'll have more money. You've got to get that's being grounded. If we look in your life, car, your house, these are the illusions of the material world. Okay, well, cast them off and see how well you do in this particular version of this game that we're playing right now. It might be an illusion, or it might be a simulation, but you're still in it. You're still in it. Life is better. You sort your car out. You sort your accommodation out. You dress well, you get decent clothes, you sort your money out, you sort your health out. These are signs of a good life. That to me is being grounded, being practical. And you should be spending more time on that than reading, escaping, moving outward, or investing in an online avatar. There is this thing called spiritual bypassing. We should formulate some kind of a term for reality bypassing. There's multiple ways of doing it. There's a lot of ways of trying to get around reality, but you can't move forward if you're deeply invested in reality bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, psychobabble bypassing, reality bypassing. You can't move forward. You've got to be grounded to move forward. Isn't there a biblical story about building a house on sand versus building it on rocks? You've got to build a foundation from the ground up. Measure twice. Says, thank you for years of good counsel, humor, and guidance. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. UG Rose says, you've got to address making sure there are no holes in the sock. Exactly. You've got to put your socks on, and you've got to get on with your life. Moving forward shouldn't be seen as a game. I don't like the idea. When that question first came up, I was a bit like, well, that's a bit strange. Why is this 29-year-old, clearly intelligent? I could tell from the way she was writing and the speed with which she was writing to me and replying to my replies. This is an intelligent person. When she says reality is an illusion, does she mean she's literally holding that in her mind, that reality is an illusion? Or is she saying, is it a segue into, is she shorthanding? Is it a joke? Is it ironic? Because you can never tell when people are writing what they mean. And she went, no, reality is an illusion. And therefore, don't worry about it. Just do whatever you want to. Just take action. Just leave the job you're in and the country you're in and move to another country. And I'm like, my God, ask me. Anybody ask me, you want to move house or move country? I move house and country every 4 to 7 months and have done for years. It's a fantastic way of wasting money and time and energy. It's very, very, very wasteful. It's a very wasteful thing to do. I'm not saying don't leave your job. I'm not saying don't change country if you want to do it, but take your time to consider exactly what you're doing and weigh up all the options and be grounded when you approach it. Don't come to it with lulu la la, like, oh, reality is just okay, reality is an illusion. Fine, go and jump off a 3-story building, and when you really hurt your flipping shins and your ankles, all that pain is an illusion according to your map of your cosmology. Well, reality is an illusion, so it's like, still hurts like fuck. It's still really unpleasant, so you wouldn't want to do it, I don't think. Okay, folks, I'm going to take some questions. Please keep it on topic. If you can make it one sentence long, and if you could make it um, on topic of being grounded and moving forward, then that would be great for me. My knee is healing. Thank you for asking. Today I went to a spin class. Are you familiar with spinning? It involves the squid tentacles in the lower half of the physical form. They're called legs. Legs. And you use them a lot. So my knee hurts, so I have to move. You will float. Oh, it's magic. Oh, it's just magic. Oh. UG Rose says, think of the worst case scenario and then see if you can take it. Because we always fantasize about how well things can go instead and are not prepared. Very, very true. Very true. And this is why it's good to have that grounded, practical mindset and to just be like, okay, what do I think is going to happen? And write it down and let it be known and look at it from an external perspective and go, I would be a bit embarrassed for people to read this because it seems like a bit of a fantasy or it seems a bit unlikely or whatever it is. And if that's where you're coming from, maybe it's not a great idea to do it. Here's a good question. Moderators, if you do see a question and you like it and I'm missing it, then just copy and paste it and spam me with it, and I will answer it. Wandalin Boutier says, when you are under a tremendous amount of stress, how or what do you do to keep yourself grounded? I combat the source of the stress. I would actually start now, and at the age that I'm at and where I'm up to in my life. And this year I've been dealing a lot with trying to focus on my personal codependency issues. If I am under stress, I have to have a meeting with myself. I'm like, okay, something's gone wrong here, and for sure, as a codependent fawn responder, I know that it's my codependency that's led me to the stress. Why? Because codependency means, and fawn responding means, it's hard to say no. If you're under a tremendous amount of pressure, then there is something or someone that you are not saying no to. And you have to start. You just have to start saying no. You've taken on too much and you have to start saying, I can't deal with all this. I can't do it. In an ideal world, I'd love to. In an ideal world, I'd lay my head down on the pillow at 10 o'clock at night, switch the button off in my brain and go to sleep for 8 perfect hours and be wide awake at 6. But I am not in a perfect world. I'm in this world. Do you know what I mean? So if you're under a tremendous amount of stress, I think that's time to start saying, okay, what's really going on here? And I would be looking outside at the situation. What can I say no to? How can I reorganize things? Because you shouldn't ever really be under a tremendous amount of stress for outside of a crisis that maybe there'll be like 2 or 3 of them in your whole life. If you're finding yourself in stress cycles all the time, something's up. Something's wrong. How can you stay grounded if you crave dopamine all the time? You can't. You can't. You're going to have to deal with the dopamine addiction first. When people talk about ADHD, I think it's probably better described as adrenophilia. Adrenophilia, that's not my term. That's the term of I've told this story before. I don't want to bore anybody. There's a guy I used to live with. I didn't live with him. He lived opposite me, and he was an older guy, and we'd occasionally let on to each other when we took the bins out. I went, hello, hello. And then one day we just struck up a conversation. Turns out he was a psychologist who specialized in child psychology. And he had this idea of ADHD, its background and where it had come from. And he said, actually, the term for it should be being an adrenophile. So you become addicted to your own adrenaline. It is an addiction. It's an addiction. I can't go to sleep at night, says Kai, because I feel I haven't milked the day completely for pleasure. I'm serious. That's a philosophical problem, Kai. Your ethic is all wrong. Life is not about you milking the day like a teat for pleasure. I'm serious, says Kai. So am I about the teat thing as well. I listened. I didn't read it. I listened. It was a good one. To a thing about Melanie Klein the other day. And she was a trailblazer in the field of psychoanalysis. And she posited a theory of attachment based on boobs. Right. Listen, that the mother, we all, men and women, are frustrated with our mothers because mother will sometimes be a source of frustration and sometimes will be a source of pleasure and satiation. And she had this idea of the good breast and the bad breast. And some people actually attach to reality in that way of frustration because it's not enough. So you might actually be looking at a situation, because you use the expression, I feel like I haven't milked the day completely for pleasure, where there's some attachment trauma has played out there, where you weren't weaned properly, and it's making you crave for something that's outside of you. So that would need to be dealt with first, because you've no chance of becoming grounded if you're truly addicted to pleasure and pleasuring yourself. Did I say Hillary Klein or Melanie Klein? It's Melanie Klein. Melody Scott Zindel, you have sent me a super chat, but there's no words with that. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Maria Berry says, we love boobies. Who doesn't love boobies? That was part of the theory, apparently, is why men and women are somewhat fixated on boobs. The good breast, the bad breast, the good mother, the bad mother, and the splitting that can create. Amy Boyd asks, Richie, I think it's great you helping people heal from trauma, but do you think the world would feel a bigger positive shift if we do the same for kids too? Maybe even the entire family unit? I don't know. I mean, the way that kids need help is different to the way that adults need help. And my hope would be to make this kind of material and ideas more mainstream. And the only way I think you can do that is by infiltrating entertainment. So yeah, hopefully we can do some good in that way. Dan has asked, hey Richard, can you be healthy if the state is making you codependent by force, also known as monitoring? These times that we live in are challenging times, and my woo 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 belief is that it's something that some entities have chosen to deal with, something that some entities have chosen to take up the challenge for. You'll notice this, when we bravely take up the challenge and do it with love and do it with positivity and do it by supporting each other and supporting ourselves, you'll feel a certain way. When you do it in a negative way, by complaining or by fighting or by attacking, you'll feel not so good. On this channel, slightly, in some places, we've talked about life purpose, the intent behind your life and how you choose to live your life. I think it's reasonable to assume that if you feel good doing something, if that emotional vibrational frequency is making you feel good, that's the right thing to do. There is a challenge here. The question is, are we strong enough for it? Can we strengthen each other enough for it? Can we help each other to move in a direction that we see as being positive? Can we break out of the false dichotomies? Left, right, man, woman, whatever else. They keep drawing lines through the population like a chessboard, like the squares on a chessboard. They keep dividing, and we fall prey to the divisions because we keep getting tricked, and we're disremembering, we're dismembered, cut off from the truth, which is you're not a body and a mind. You're a body and mind in one unit, and you're not separate from me. I'm not separate from you. If you suffer, I suffer. I'll never be happy whilst people are suffering. You'll never be happy whilst other human beings are suffering, because the single point of consciousness that you can go back to, if you say, okay, here's me talking and I have a pair of socks on and you don't have them on, I have them on, you have your socks on, you keep them on your feet, I have my bank account number, I have my national insurance number, I have my passport number, I've been branded as a good little goat by my government, we own you, and you've been branded by your government as another good little goat. But then I say, it's an old meditation practice. Can I observe my thoughts? Yes. It's tricky. It takes a bit of time, but you can. Can I observe my speech? That's pretty easy to do. I can do that straight away. Can I observe my observation of you? Yeah. Can I observe the observer who's observing you? Yes. Can I observe the observer who's observing the thoughts? Right now, no. But if everything was quiet and I wasn't doing a YouTube live, I would be able to. And you go back and back until you just get pure awareness. Pure awareness. No national insurance number, no bank account number, no individual socks. It's just my perspective from where I'm at right now. You could be of a different sex, different culture, different ethnicity, different geographical location, different language patterns, different food, different hormonal makeup, different molecules running through your body, everything. But at some point, at some level, I can access your experience and you can access mine, and we're not different. We're not different. The game that's being played, if you want the version of what's happening at the broad scale, at the singular level, so in a family unit or in a relationship, you could have a narcissistic psychopathic predator harming another person, causing them to feel pain, to make them submit, to traumatize them. At the larger level, you mentioned government, at the big spiritual game level, we have certain levels of consciousness causing pain, traumatizing people. What does trauma do? Why did the Spanish Inquisition torture people? Why, when we went to nick all the gold in South America, did we do the things that we did to the people there? When you hurt someone, if you come over here and you hurt me, you put me back in my body. You force me to individualize. When you hurt me physically, so you could cut me, you could smack me with a club, and you force me to individualize. If you starve me, beat me, if you chain me up, if you enslave me, put me to hard labor, so I suffer till my teeth fall out, or whatever it is. It's not a very nice image, but that's what's being done. It forces me back into the flesh. The story of Christ, the torture, the anguish, the suffering, and then the execution through mutilation and torture that's so public, is to put him back in his place. That was the message. You're just a hanging piece of meat. That's why they did it like that. Look at you. You're just a hanging piece of meat. And the ultimate mockery was to hang a sign on him and say, this flipping numpty said he was the king of all the Jews. What a tit. That's the Jews who did that to him. That's the Jews, because they had nothing but contempt for him, because they thought he was a false prophet. Why cut him? Why whip him? Why make him wear a crown of thorns? Why? because that pain, that suffering puts him back in the body. What happens after narcissistic abuse? I'll tell you what happened to me. I became depressed and hateful and rageful, and I fell out of love with humanity, and I didn't want to help people. There's all kinds of things that I could have done for years. I do it quite easily. I do it as easily as breathing, unless I'm tired. But if I'm not tired, I can just chat to people. I just go blah, 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 and tell them a stupid story about Star Wars and like how Yoda has a really big dick, and then they'll laugh and then they'll walk away and they'll go, "I feel better now." I didn't do that for years. They shut me up. Who is they? Who is they? I was shut up. I was shut up. You could be shut up. Anyone can be shut up because it's pain. That's what happens. That's what happens. Is so if you get the wounding, the trauma, whether it's emotional or it's physical, it's to re-individualize you and to tell you you are flesh. You are nothing but that meat sack that you're in. And that's where wretchedness comes from. That's where self-loathing can come from. That's where body dysmorphia issues and anorexia and bulimia can come from. Is the shaming of the flesh, this wretched meat vessel. It's an old trick. It's an old game. They figured out a long, long time ago, and they've been playing it for a long time. Get people drunk, get people high, get them addicted to drugs, get them addicted to sex, have them feel like their own body is betraying them, which is what would happen to you under enslavement or under torture. Eventually, you would forego your values to stop physical pain or to be given food, and you walk away feeling like betrayed. My body has betrayed me, but it's not. Somebody's hurt you. They seek to debase. Just work backwards. When we say who is they, we look at we reverse engineer from the protocol that's there. In narcissistic abuse, I would say, what is it to a client? What do you feel right now? I feel ashamed, I feel jealous, I feel resentful, and I'm obsessed with him or her. Okay, that's what they want you to feel. What do we feel now? No healthy shame, massive amounts of aggression and hostility and competitiveness towards each other. No respect for each other's boundaries, no respect for each other's humanity, no respect for our own humanity, no respect for nature, no respect for nobility, no love of that which is of worthwhile, everything turned on its arse. Do they seek to debase? Well, they have. Here we are. The Brooklyn Way says, and your value is inherent in that body's ability to function. Yes, yes. It's important for this issue of being grounded to move forward that there is respect shown for the body and respect shown for daily life and respect shown for finances and clothing and the material world, the real world. It's really important. It's really important. If you sort yourself out, you'll feel better and you'll start moving up, and that's a good thing. But it's balance, isn't it? It's all about the balance. It's yin and yang. If you get too stuck in the material world, you're screwed. If you try and forego it, unless you've really taken sannyas and you're really committed to your spiritual growth and you're really committed to meditation and fasting, you're wasting your time. There's like this midway point that people get stuck in. They go, "Oh, reality is an illusion." I'm like, well, you're still wanking every day over porn, aren't you? So should you be mouthing those words, or you're lusting all the time over stuff, over clothes or jewelry or cars? So should you be the same person? Well, I believe reality is an illusion, but you're not living that. You're just saying that. So that's where I think it's important to have that balance and that understanding, and to be able to say, hey, what it is that works for me, what it is that causes me to feel good and to connect with other people, that has value. The intellectual stuff, the academic stuff, it has value. But look at the happiness and the joy of people who stay stuck in that. It's low. Look at the happiness and the joy of academics. I just went to a university yesterday and chatted to some academics. Miserable. Nice people. Not the most miserable people I've ever met, but like they're not like thriving and like, hey, life is great. I'm living my best life, and this is what I'm doing. It's very the chi. is a little bit weak. Sarah Lily asks, how can we help our children to understand this? It's so hard trying to explain this to my teenage daughter uh, when there are so many different influences hitting her. Um, it's not. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because you might think, oh, here's me, here's my daughter, and I want her to understand this concept that I understand, but she's a teenager. She's not. She don't want to listen to this. Um, so maybe you can't make her listen to this, but what you can do is make sure that she's getting what she needs from you, not what she wants from you, what she needs from you. And what she needs is attention and time spent intentfully, not distracted with TVs and movies and phones, and for you to be present with her and for her to feel and see love, not sentimental. Sentimental sometimes, like I love you. Let's have a hug. Let's have a cuddle. Yes, but also, how are you doing? No, but seriously, like, how are you doing? Is it good? Are you good? What do you need? Do you need something? What can me and you do together to make sure that your needs are being met? Do you need a conversation? Do you need to speak to somebody? Do we need to be, whatever it is, just by being there, by being very, very present and seeing what's going on, that can be a big help. Uh, it's difficult and takes a lot of skill. And I got paid a lot of money to do what you're talking about doing, which is people would say, okay, here's what we want teenagers to understand. Can you convey it to them? And I'll be like, uh-huh, hand it over. I can do this. And when I was quite young, I was about 26, 27. Um, that's what I got paid a lot of money to do because it's hard. It's really hard. Like teenagers are on their own thing and they don't want to listen to you. So I'm just being honest with you, they don't want to listen to me. They don't want any adults to like interrupt what's going on for them, what's obsessing them at that time. And the more you push on that, the more they push back. Like, no, fuck off, leave me alone. So it's difficult. It's difficult, but not impossible. So probably the better solution is for you to just be present with her, be grounded with her, and um, try and listen more than you. Don't put like don't put. It's such a balancing act, and I can't really explain how to do it here. But it's very tempting with a teenager that you're responsible for to go. I think you should the. So I'm gonna fucking and put the energy of you should into this. And my thing was more like I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I don't really know you. Why don't you tell me what it is? Do you know what it is? Like, what should you be doing? What do you think you should be doing? How do you think you should live your life? I don't fucking know. Look at me. I'd say this. I go, look at me. I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know. I don't know any. What do you think? Well, your mind hasn't been like damaged by all the stuff and the nonsense yet. What do you think? And change the dynamic so that them in the position of being the person who produces the content, because it's very tempting for us to put content on people. You got to remember, like, your priorities are not her priorities. Your priority will be her safety, and her priority is her growth. And safety and growth, they go against each other. So my thing would always be, I'd be like, oh yeah, growth, 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 growth. Yeah, growth is great. Yeah, can't really grow if you're dead. So, so on the back foot, I'd be like, just just watch out for that. Just be safe. It is a tightrope walk. Anastasia says, when I was in the midst of a non-stop perpetual flashback, it was next to impossible to ground myself. My work helped, remembering I was a mother, but I had to use hypnotherapy to bring myself back. I walk barefoot outside. It helps. I drive to the coast. The ocean grounds me like nothing else. Thank you for talking about this. Grounding is essential for healing. It is. The ocean helps me as well. A lot. Callie asks, is your coaching by instinct or do you follow a symptom? Um, It's a lot like martial arts, I think. And martial arts is my first love before psychology. And so back in the day, I would say, no, there's a structure, there's a system here, and there's your system. And then I'd hand it over to people and I'd go, there's your system. Don't do anything outside of that, you'll be fine. And then I'd go and I'd watch my coaches coaching people and I'd go, don't do that. And they go, you in the dogma of the system, you said to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't mean that you should say those words to that girl or that guy like that at that moment. So there is always a bit of art inside of the science as well. I'm going to take two more questions, and then I'm going to wrap, folks. My question, Alan Reyes, got the most likes out of that post. What are your plans for it? I'm just curious. Don't take that as me being upset. I answered your question, mate. Your question was dude, everybody loved your question. We had a great time answering your question. Alan is the guy who was asking your question, right? Was about depression and how to get back on with life and whether you should just carry on with work or whatever else. Yeah, we answered that. When I say we, I mean me and my multiple personalities. We answered that, and it did really well. And I think it's got like 15,000 views, and everybody loved it. So get in there, lad, and enjoy it. That's reality, says Richard Grannon. He's not here right now. How was your retreat? It was all right. Does he need a link? Yes, extra dimension. If you could pick up the link for that video and I'll post it here and then Alan can go and check it out. Mickey says, Richard, exclamation mark. How do I find balance between healthy boundary building and keeping the necessary vulnerability for building new relationships? Yeah, man. If you're emotionally regulated, there shouldn't really be a if everything is emotionally regulated and you're feeling pretty smooth on that front. Like if you're emotionally flashbacking, things can get a bit confusing. But if you're emotionally regulated, you just be like, okay, here's a boundary. We don't need to go further than that. And here's some vulnerability. Vulnerability sometimes is not as I know that Brene Brown's talk was really, really good and really, really important. Um, Vulnerability to me should be done within a fairly strong structure. So you do need to have established a good relationship, good boundaried relationship with that person first, and then you can be vulnerable. Alan says, "Lol, my bad. Thank you. No problem, mate. No problem. Anytime at all." Did anybody get the link for Alan there? Where do you get your haircut, La? Hey, listen, don't be taking the piss out of my zoo. It's awesome. I went to get a haircut in Prague, and I got the haircut, and the guy comes out with a DSLR camera, and he goes, "Can I take a picture?" I went, "Yeah, yeah, of course, you can, no problem." And I said, "What are you going to do with it?" He says, "Oh, we put on Instagram." I said, "Can I see your Instagram?" They said, "Yes, yes." And it wasn't on for about 2 days, and then 2 days later, they posted it and they said this guy wanted a haircut like somebody from Peaky Blinders. You bastards! I didn't say that. I just said short back and sides. Leave the top. Oh, for sure, by order of the Peaky Blinders. What's the video or the link? Has anybody got the link for Alan or the name? I can't even remember the name of it now. That would be helpful. It's one of the last 3 uploads. Okay, here's the last question. Harley Johnson asks, do you believe in Jesus, God, or Jordan Peterson? Hey, are you trolling? Basically, a higher being. Are you saying that Jordan Peterson thinks he's a higher being? Listen, we've got a lot of Jordan Peterson fans here. Don't start. Uh, Beyond human consciousness understanding, and what is your opinion on nihilism? Nihilism's a cop out, and I believe in good, honest, open discussion and healthy application of good philosophy. Vrashali says hello from Mumbai. Hello, Vrashali. What's the most important thing to remember for today? I think the most important thing is don't get lost in hyper intellectualizing your problems. If you want to move forward in your life, you're going to have to do it from a grounded, practical position where you're not avoiding that which needs to be done, that you're not trying to spiritually bypass your way out of it or chant your way out of it or meditate your way out of it. Sometimes you just have to take out the trash. Sometimes you just need to go and get a different job and make some more money. Um, and this was partly inspired by the pushback I got on the video where I said reality is an illusion. No. And there's a lot of people who are quite invested in the idea of reality being an illusion. And I was like, why would you do that? And I realized it's a coping strategy. And sometimes it's a justification. It's a post hoc justification for laziness. Or, sometimes laziness is a result of trauma, and you have my sympathy, and it can be a manifestation of depression, but it is still laziness. You're still creating a post hoc justification. Same thing, like this can happen with conspiracy theories. People can get very invested in conspiracy theories so that they can say, and that's why I don't have a job. Well, that's why I've got a shit job because the government's in charge of everything and there's no point. And I'm like, no, there is a point. Don't be lazy. Get out there and do what you need to do. Don't be a divvy. So the point of the message today was don't be a divvy. Okie dokie. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I hope that there was something useful in there. And I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. Thank you for attending and thank you for all the kind comments. Cheers.